Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this first next session. My name is Rohini Gaonkar. I'm a AWS developer advocate based out of India, and we have our guest speaker for today, Stephen, to talk about AWS Proton. Stephen, it would be great if you can introduce yourself to the viewers.
Sure. Hey, everybody. I am a developer on the AWS Proton team, and I'm excited to tell you about this new product that we've been working on.
Thanks, Steve. Before we proceed, just wanted to announce to our viewers today to message AWS on air on Twitter with questions, and we will get them answered for you. So, Steve, Proton has caused a lot of interest amongst a lot of us post its announcement of public preview in the keynote last week. I'm excited to dive deeper into the service itself. So, let's start with a quick introduction about AWS Proton. So, over to you.
Sure. So AWS Proton is an application deployment service. And what that means is we bring together your infrastructure as code, your CI/CD, and your observability tools into a single interface for developers to go from code in a repo to a running microservice on their AWS infrastructure.
Okay. And who is this service for?
Proton is best suited for organizations that are rapidly building microservices. And the services can range from pretty small to large enterprises. They typically have there's a kind of two personas. We have the infrastructure team, which we also refer to as admins, and they're the ones who are monitoring the AWS infrastructure. They often see the bill, right? And they're the ones who are setting the security best practices. And then you have the developers, and they just want to write code and build the systems. And so
Okay.
if you're in an organization building microservices and you have this sort of separation, even if it's not a clean one, like in my last job, I was at a startup and, I kind of wore both hats, but, if you can see that, then Proton might just be for you.
Okay. And what are the problems that Proton is going to solve for these organizations? What are the typical scenarios that it's going to help them?
Yeah, great question. So, as I was saying, you kind of have these two sides, where you have your infrastructure team who are defining and tracking the infrastructure that is being used by deployed services, and then you have the developers, right? And so what often happens is developers will end up creating CloudFormation templates, and so they end up being the ones who are managing the infrastructure. They go and
Right.
deploy it to a bunch of places. And so then you have these services that are running on infrastructure. The infrastructure team does, the admins, they can't keep track of anything. And then you build the next service, right? And you just copy paste that CloudFormation template or that Terraform code, and then you copy paste tweak. And then if there's an issue with security or compliance, these infrastructure teams have to go in by hand and chase down developers, and it becomes a big mess.
Right.
So that's kind of the low-fi way of doing it. And then what people do is they'll sometimes build systems, and you can go as far as building your own platform as a service. So a lot of organizations have had success this way. Atlassian has a great one. If you Google Atlassian platform as a service, you'll find a really good blog post about why they created their own platform as a service. So what Proton does is it helps you build this platform as a service for your
Okay.
infrastructure team and your developers without having to go through all of that heavy investment in building your own platform as a service.
Okay. Nice. So now you're helping organizations build a platform as a service tool for their developers, if that
Correct.
is what I understand out of this. Okay, great. And can you just quickly walk us through like how does Proton work? Like what is the typical scenario into how these different teams or the infrastructure or platform teams and the developers talk to Proton?
Great. Yeah. So, well, first, right, we're going to take a look at it in a little bit, but so let me just explain. So I'll start from the developer's perspective. You begin with creating a repo in, say, GitHub, right? And then you go onto Arrow and you create what's called a service in Arrow. You connect it to your GitHub, and then you choose the type of service that you want to create, right? And these types of services map to what in Proton we refer to as templates. And for example, it could be web application, right, or like background queue processor or something like that. So you choose the type, you enter in some information, and then what you do is you choose where it's going to run, right? And then and so sorry, Proton, Arrow was the code name, so it will slip out of my mouth from time to time. But so in Proton, you define what's called environments, and I'll explain that in a minute. And that's kind of the place where you will deploy your services to. So you choose the environments you're deploying to. You enter in some information. So an environment could be like production, development, staging, whatever. And then you choose where you're going to deploy it. You hit next, and then Proton will go and provision running instances of that service in each of those environments that you've chosen. And so environments
Okay.
are so that's kind of how it works for the developer. For the admin on the infrastructure team, they will set up environments, right? An environment is some shared infrastructure. So an environment will run multiple service instances, right? So classic example of an environment is a VPC, right? So like that's some infrastructure that would be shared across multiple services, or an ECS cluster. So environments get defined. So just like I said, you choose kind of the kind of service you want, and that is defined in these templates.
Okay.
Proton also provides templates for your environments, because you could have different types of this shared infrastructure. So so the platform team will set up those templates, right? So there's a little bit of setup work that they do there, and then create the environments, and then developers just go and create their services.
Okay.
And so one more thing on the templates, what's interesting is that, so say you have a service that's running out there, right? It's your web service and it has a template. And then you realize, oh, we need to scope down some IAM permissions, right? So what are you going to do? You have 100 instances of this service running, right? How are you going
Right.
to go and update all of that infrastructure? So what Proton provides is a versioning system for these templates, both for environment templates and service templates. And it's
Okay.
really cool. So what you would do is you would go and make the changes inside your Proton template. You might modify in this case, you would modify the CloudFormation YAML, and then you go and publish to Proton a new version of that template. And then all your services can be updated without having to interact with CloudFormation or any of the backend infrastructure. Can all be done from either the Proton API or the console. And so finally, one thing that is coming up in the future is when you have a running service instance, Proton will also monitor the health of your service and report that to you. So if a developer wants to say, okay, cool, where are all my running instances and how are they doing? They can see it right there in the Proton console or through the API.
Okay. So we are saying that you can have versioning for these templates. That is something a lot of customers have been asking about, is about versioning. Like, hey, can we have a place instead of them doing it via their tool chains? They can now do it using Proton, right?
Yep.
So, a lot of people ask this question, and it may be a question that you have answered as well. So is Proton just a layer on top of AWS CloudFormation?
Uh, well, it does provide an abstraction over CloudFormation. It does provide a layer on top of it. But Arrow was designed to actually be agnostic of the platform infrastructure as code provider. So I'll clear that up. Arrow launched with support for CloudFormation templates, right? So like the CloudFormation YAML, but it's on our roadmap, and we're really excited to launch with with uh, with with Terraform, for example, right? So Proton will support Terraform at some point, and we've gotten some really good feedback on CDK. So it's not only CloudFormation YAML templates, but for the moment it is, right? So as I mentioned, it first, you don't have to go and put templates into CloudFormation and create the stacks. Proton does it for you. And it adds that versioning layer. And the second thing it does, which I'll show in the demo, is it allows you to use a rendering engine to interpolate values that developers enter into that console. When I said you make a service, enter in some information, that information gets into these CloudFormation templates using Jinja. And Jinja is a templating engine. You can think of it as like string.format on steroids, right? And there's a bunch of them. If you are in the Ruby world, you're going to use ERB, Mustache. There's a bajillion of them. But out of the box, Proton supports Jinja. And so it actually makes it a little bit easier to create your CloudFormation templates.
Lovely. So let me reconfirm my understanding about Proton itself quickly. So there are two teams, there's an administrator and there's a developer teams that will work with Proton. As an administrator, will create and register an environment template and a service template, which will define the infrastructure that is required, the monitoring, the CI/CD aspect of these resources, right? So that is the admin part. And then there is a developer console, or there is a developer team who will then select the registered templates, the service templates that have been registered for them, and they can also link it to the source code repository, like GitHub in this case, right? And then they can move on. So that's the correct understanding, I hope.
Yeah, you did a better job than I did.
No worries. I
I
was just,
think
I was
we
just,
should switch. Yeah, that was perfect.
no worries.
Exactly.
But okay, so that clears up a lot of questions. But this does sound a lot like service catalog. So, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, so there are definitely similarities between the two. I would say, in a nutshell, Proton is a higher level service and encompasses a broader spectrum of the life cycle than Service Catalog does. Service Catalog is more of a primitive, right? Where in Service Catalog you kind of govern the distribution and deployment of your CloudFormation templates, and ultimately those CloudFormation templates are owned by the developers, right? Who go and deploy their services. So Proton takes steps to abstract that part of it away from them. And then Proton, of course, also adds CI/CD, right? It takes a very opinionated stance. Proton doesn't mess with your application code, but it does require a CI/CD pipeline. It does require a Git repository. And then, of course, as we discussed, Proton will support more than just CloudFormation. So the two are similar, and Service Catalog might be right for some people, and it just depends on your use case. And I'm looking forward to a tighter integration between the two in the future. So
Let's look forward to that. So before we get into the demo part, I do have one last question to ask, and I'm sure, like me, everyone's eager to go for demo. But are there any typical limitations that we should be aware of for Proton while it's in preview right now?
sure. So first thing, Proton is not in the SDK, and it is not in the standard CLI, but I will show you it's very easy to use the CLI with Proton. It's just a little bit of code. And there's a few features, right, that aren't live yet, because we wanted to get it out for everybody, and we really want to be feedback driven. So much so that our roadmap is on GitHub. And so we'll post a link at the end of this, but if you're interested in shaping the future of Proton, go over to GitHub and file an issue. And we are watching that diligently. So there's a few features that we'll be adding over the next few months before we go to GA. But I think the most important thing is that we're listening, and we really want this to be community driven. Oh, it's also free, by the way. Forgot to mention that. And
Yes, it is.
no plans, as far as I know, for that to change, but can't say.
But as long as it's free as of now, we all can go ahead and play with it.
Yeah.
So thanks for that honest response to that question. And
Sure.
let's go into demo because like me, everyone else is excited. So let's get into the demo.
Let's do it. Okay, so yeah, so I'll get started here on the demo. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
All right, great. So this is the Proton console, and I want to quickly go into some services here. So here's a service that I created before. So I just want to cruise around the console real quick, and then what I want to do is register some templates and create an environment and a service with you. So you have the service here, and here is, as I said, the running service instance here, and you can see the environment that it's deployed into, right? So we have, you can see your services. As I mentioned, here's each of your running microservices right there, and then here are your environments. And then here are the templates that we talked about, right? So I have a few service templates, and I have a few environment templates, right? So you can do everything that you can do in the console, you can do in the API. So I can create my template right here if I want. Same with services. So what I'd like to do real quick is I'm going to hop on over to a different region. So I'm going to go over to US West 2. Arrow is live in 5 regions, by the way. We're live in US East 1, US East 2, US West 2, AP Northeast 1, and EU, I always get this one wrong, EU West 1. So what you see here is the Proton samples, which we'll also link. They're live on GitHub, so you can just clone this repository, and then you will have 2 sample applications ready to go. And I'm basically going to follow along with the README from GitHub. I've already done this, but as I mentioned, right, the CLI doesn't have Proton built into it right now, but you can literally copy and paste this code into your terminal, and it will just set up the CLI. So as you can see here, I can type in AWS Proton Preview, just run this snippet, and you'll be good to go. I've done some of this setup work here. And so what I'm going to do is, using the API, make sure I got the right region. I think I do. Okay, so I created an environment template, and let me just double check before I keep on typing and clicking. There we go. Okay, great. Yeah, there's nothing, we have nothing in here right now. So
Hey, Steve,
yeah.
sorry. Is there a way to increase the font right now? Maybe
Oh, sure.
because the, yeah,
Is that better?
I think, yeah, that's much better. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. All right. So I am going to just cruise through this because, as usual, I spent a lot of time talking. So hold on. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating my template, creating a new version of the template, and I just want to take a moment while so let me just upload this template. So what you do is you zip up your template, put it in S3, and then you give that location to Proton, and Proton will register your template, validate it, and all that. Kind of cool if you, it makes sure that it's backwards compatible and things like that. And what I wanted to show you real quick was the Jinja that we talked about. So yeah, so you see here, this little bit, this service instance unique name right here, this is going to be input into our template that we'll put in just a minute. And so this is not CloudFormation, this is Jinja, and Proton will do all this for you. So let me just keep.
So
Go ahead.
you're going to combine it at real time and then push ahead.
Yes. Right. So you give us the template, we take your input, and then we create the CloudFormation template, and then we give that to CloudFormation. Let me just do the same. So now so I created an environment template. Now I'm gonna create a service template.
Right. And these are administrator tasks, right? So this is the admins that
Correct.
they're gonna create these environments, the service templates. Yes.
I did something wrong just now. Hold on. And I want to make sure that I think I didn't copy paste something right. Okay, good. Yeah, I did run that command. Okay, it's just telling me that I already did that. All right. Now let's finish up the service template because I want to make an environment and then I'd love to make a service. Why did it not like what I did there? Sorry about that. 1 second. Uh-oh. Oh, that's why. Okay, I messed something up here. Sorry about that. Let me just run these again real fast. How am I doing on time? Because I can just skip to creating a service.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you want to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
We will
so yeah, wrong directory. Happens all the time. But there's probably a service template here. Yeah, but I haven't uploaded it. So I'm just gonna shoot on over to here and let's make an
So you're like a
environment.
good chef, so we have everything ready just for these things.
Right.
Brilliant.
So here you create an environment. Like I said, you can create it with the API or the console. So you choose your template,
Okay.
and then okay, and then we go kind of next, next, next type thing, and then this is going to go and create my environment. And actually, what it's going to do, real quick, is provision it in CloudFormation. So you see
Okay.
here, it's creating my environment, and then go back here and let's create a service. So let's just do this one
Okay.
here. All right. And what did I have in here? I think it was.
So this is the developer
Yes,
side
this is
of
right.
that.
So this
Okay.
is the developer experience. Yes, sorry.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you go and create a service, and before you create a service, you would connect us with GitHub, which is easy to do.
Okay.
You use
Okay.
a service called CodeStar for that, CodeStar Connections. And so here I'm going to add my instances. All right.
Okay.
So you can see here I got my different environments, and I would create an instance for the environments that I want. Right.
Interesting.
And let's just use all the defaults. So what's interesting is this port, desire count, task size, all these different things, they're defined in your template.
Template. Okay.
So you see here the port to route traffic to. So you define a schema, and that determines the input that goes into this, and that input is what you see
Right.
interpolated in Jinja.
Right. So as an admin, I just mentioned the, let's say, for example, instance type here, and I just mentioned that these are the particular instance types that you can launch in your environment, and only those
Exactly.
will be populated, right? Okay.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. So yeah, the administrator would define this, and the
Okay.
developer would choose it. And oh, I got the wrong. Typed in the wrong thing.
So so right now, I think you have logged into an account where you have both the views, right, for developer and platform.
Yes.
Right.
So it's developers and administrators have access to the same console.
Okay.
They would typically use different pages within it. As we grow, you might see a cleaner separation there.
Okay.
But as it stands for both of those personas, they will see a unified experience. But like for example, today environments can be deployed to single account. It's a single account, but what if you have a developer who has an account and they want the environment on their account, and when the service instance deploys to their environment, it should deploy on their account. So that's kind of where we're headed. And then in that case, a developer might see only the services that they've created and things like that. And regarding like template sharing and things like that. So anyway, I think we're short on time, but so what would have happened there if I had clicked the right thing? It would have eventually, right? So it would have started, would have deployed to CloudFormation. It would have deployed my pipeline, which you can see. So currently we support code deploy, but we will expand to other CI/CD providers. On the roadmap, you can see GitHub Actions. People have asked for Jenkins and Spinnaker and things like that. So today it's I think so. After it deployed, oops. Is this it? Sorry, I'm jumping around here. Yeah, so when I deployed using the default image from the service template, it's just using this stock Nginx container image, which is now running in an ELB and all set to go. And then in fact, if you wanted to go and look at your infrastructure, if you absolutely had to, you shouldn't need to. You could click here, copy this, pop it into CloudFormation, like so. And then you could see your running infrastructure. So
Right. Um, that is quite interesting.
yeah, it's
Good.
so I think that's about how much time we have for the demo. I could go on like
Yes.
this forever, but let's end it
We
now if
would.
you don't mind.
No worries, no worries. So we would also have loved to see that as well, but not an issue. Great. So thanks for that. I think one piece we didn't see was the update part as well, which maybe we'll see
Yes.
in the future. But just wanted to mention that the
Well,
administrators can then update and
I'll tell you what. Let's can probably do that right now. So
okay.
I just
We have maybe a minute left, so
okay. So here, I published template. So it says you're not on the latest version. Update to the
can
latest
we
version.
please see the screen? One second. Yeah, we can see your
Oh,
screen. We can see your
okay.
screen. Yes, yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so it tells you it's out of date, and then now it's going to go deploy. And if you wanted to see the progress in CloudFormation, you of course could. At some point here, it's going to update to the latest version. So
Yeah.
very simple. It's just a few clicks to update and keep all of your running infrastructure in compliance.
Perfect. Awesome.
All right.
Uh,
Thank you so
thanks.
much. All right,
Thanks,
let's end
Steve.
this. Yeah.
So thanks for the demo.
Yep.
So what's next for our viewers? What do they do next after this session?
Yeah. Go over to Git if you want to get started with Proton. Go to our Proton samples repo on GitHub, and just like I did, you can follow along with that README. In about 10 minutes, you can have a running service, and then I invite you to please play with it, and then let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you'd like to see. It's all available on the roadmap, and it's free, and we are really excited for people to try it out, and just looking forward to any feedback you can give us.
Awesome. Yes, you're going to see a lot of activity on the public roadmap on GitHub.
I
And
hope so.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Steve,
All right.
for walking us through Proton, and this was quite interesting. Thank you again, and thank you
Thank you.
for viewers for watching this.
Okay. Bye.